Stern line.
Just too much.
Yeah, you need a break.
We live in an ever-changing world where nothing remains the same. From the beginning of time and days of hunter-gatherers, inventions were being brought to life to help make our lives more efficient. A constant evolution to push the world forward. Historically, farms were built along rivers, bays, and sounds for the simple reason that their cargo moved with ease by water to their markets. This is no longer the case along the coast of America. We've become a fast-paced society with a rapid-fire need for instant gratification. Society, technology, and the planet battling each other in a moral dilemma of doing what's right or satisfying that need for that expansion. There are times when I wake up and I realize I don't recognize the world around me anymore. And this is one of them. Digital technology has taken us into a period where we press a button and in an instant, we've completed a purchase. And with that same speed, we expect the purchase to magically appear on our doorstep without knowing where in the world it has traveled or the climate damage that may have occurred to force that arrival. You can instantly purchase a new pair of shoes, electronic equipment, and furniture for your home. Our question is, should it work for your food? With the convenience and speed of delivery comes congestion on our highways and roadways, lost time, increased air emissions, and energy use. Serious issues never attributed to the single touch of that button. We are utilizing a transportation footprint that is no longer sustainable, and the consequences of doing so are creating irrevocable damage to the environment. We see the solution as simply reducing the distance your food travels from harvest to your table and transiting that distance with a system that delivers without environmental impact. A combination of historical skill sets with new transportation technologies and alternative energy, providing sustainability on our waterways to support local farms and artisans before we lose them. Make no mistake, your health and the health of this planet depends on it. Why raise these issues with The Last Line? This is a series of problems discussed with a network of individuals that maintain those skill sets. Farmers, fishermen, oystermen, surrounded by shipbuilders and ship repairers, captains and deckhands, all gathered around a working waterfront. Many of the companies introduced are woman and minority owned. Many have multi-generational experience, and others are a new generation, understanding the problems and returning to their roots to make a difference. This is not a collection of politicians, actors, actresses, or media reporters. These are engineers, environmentalists, and artisan manufacturers that look to solve problems beyond talking about them. A community that believes the solution must be local and, more importantly, sustainable. We believe you need to hear their stories. My name is Bob Kunkel. I'm the president of Harbor Harvest and First Harvest Navigation.
Marilyn Kunkel, owner of Harbor Harvest.
Hi, I'm Annie Farrell, and I'm at Millstone Farm here.
My name is Drew Duckworth, and I'm the farm manager.
I am Elisa Gorman, Communication Business Growth.
This is Nick Marchenko. I'm the chef owner of South End.
I'm Taylor Matsky, and I manage the gardens here at Millstone Farm.
My name is Meg. I am a 12th generation Long Islander, and and I run and operate Yennicott Oyster Farm.
My name is Micah Tucker. I'm the technical manager for Harbor Harvest and First Harvest Navigation.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what you want.
Harbor Harvest and First Harvest Navigation is a vertical business model, taking shipping and food and putting them back together again as it was maybe 200 years ago. We're looking at trying to help family farms, local fishermen, local oystermen to develop a new regional transportation system and use the waterways to open up new markets for them. So Harbor Harvest is a set of farm markets that we develop with warehousing, and First Harvest Navigation is the sustainable, environmentally impact-free transportation of those products. Small family farms generating less than $350,000 in gross revenue accounted for nearly 90% of all U.S. farms in 2018. For over 3 decades, Farm Aid has worked to raise support for those family farms, along with the help of many other organizations at federal, state, and local levels. 3 decades, and we are still looking for an answer, a solution. Waterborne transportation and farming have been partners for centuries. Land and sea, hand in hand, defined a true chain of custody along our coasts under sail. Global distance and expansion next identified the world's oceans as an obstacle to be conquered. Technology and fossil fuels became the cavalry to win that battle. Local economies became global economies. Where the harvest takes place is a farmer's most valuable asset. Whether the skill set is a pair of hands in the soil, retrieving fishing line, or pulling an oyster cage from the ocean floor, the location of that asset affects the quality and taste of the food it delivers. Maintaining those skill sets and limiting the distance your food travels from those locations to your table is part of the solution. Clean water, clean air, and natural soil are the basic elements to assure they continue to exist.
I'm interested in obviously sustainable regenerative farming. We don't use machinery here, so our soil is really great. There's not a lot of erosion. We don't have tractors running through it. There's not a lot of compaction. So when it rains, our soil is able to absorb most of that, but that's not the case for a lot of farmers out there. This type of farming, what Annie started here, is, in my opinion, the only way to preserve American farmlands. Chemicals, high tillage, monocropping is not going to sustain us through climate change.
Oyster farming is one of the most sustainable fisheries that we have. It is the future for seafood production. It's usually locally centric. Basically, sustainability is what defines oyster farming.
The way that was considered lunatic fringe 20, 30 years ago is now really the way to go because it's preserving what we have left of viable farmland. If you took an apple and cut it up, and then cut it up and cut it up and cut it up, and ended up with a piece of the skin this big, if you put 4 fingers together, that big, that's how much viable farmland is on this planet. There's not much. And so preserving what we have of it is critical.
Sustainability is what we're trying to reach to be able to deliver these local products without chemicals, without fertilizers, without any interruption in how the planet delivers these goods to us, fresh and free of our influences that have turned to the point where I could eat peanuts, but my grandchildren can't eat peanuts. So it goes everywhere from the beginning of that farmer harvesting. It has to do with food security and chain of custody. So we know the farmer that's harvested, or the oysterman that's harvested and the fisherman that's harvested, and he delivers directly to us where it comes on this boat and is delivered into the markets that we support. And that sustainability allows us to control waste. It allows us to control areas that the larger corporations and your news feeds that we see of people believing that fresh food can be dropped on your doorstep after it's gone through 3 airports and 2 trucking companies. Sustainability to us is reducing the distance from where that farm grows and where you buy your products. So farm to table means much more to us than what you read on your restaurant menu. In 2019, nearly half of U.S. consumers shop for packaged food products online. That number is projected to rise to 70% by 2022. An estimated $100 billion spent per year on online groceries. Data points that have accelerated due to the COVID-19 pandemic. 70% of consumers no longer inspecting produce at the market to determine freshness or asking where it was harvested. No discussion to determine when that fish was caught or that steer butchered.
Shopping local is very important. There's comfort in knowing who has harvested your food, where your food comes from, who delivers your food, and where you purchase it from. Harbor Harvest has made shopping local and sustainable easier.
We have over 50 local vendors between Norwalk and Long Island. Of course, their product is locally sourced when they can. They're sustainable. They think about their packaging, and they taste amazing.
No moment, savoring the taste and the smile fresh food brings to your favorite chef as he presents his dish at your table.
Our philosophy is that the better the food is, the less we do with it. And if our food quality is what we expect, that gives us the ability to use big, huge, bold flavors without manipulating the dish.
Chefs have a really, especially in smaller restaurants, they're overwhelmed. I mean, they're trying to make really tight margins. They've got very high, overhead and food costs.
And as far as purveyors, I always laugh at myself when I'm doing the bills and I realize I have 40 to 50 different checks getting written. I mean, it would be much easier just to use one house for everything, but that is definitely not our philosophy. And I'm reminded every month by that, but it's the least amount of work that it takes to get food to our table is the most important thing.
To date, world transportation has provided regulation to reduce energy consumption, formulate new fossil fuels, and set dates well into 2050 to achieve a 50% reduction in carbon emissions. Another 30 years added to a political decision process, satisfying only 50% of the problem. To affect climate change and meet zero carbon emissions, we must act to utilize extended energy storage. Wind, solar, and fuel cell all require that storage to move into mainstream transportation and alternative energy use. More importantly, that storage capability is needed to move away from our dependence on oil. In the United States, look beyond the debate of a 100-year-old cabotage law and build that energy efficiency into a new coastal fleet using battery and hybrid technology. Our vessel here is 100% U.S. built. In every environmental project, people talk about cradle to grave. So this was the birthplace of the Captain Ben Moore, of our hybrid vessel, and the birthplace of us looking to introduce hybrid technology into the smaller marine markets. Follow the lessons learned from the automotive industry. Hybrid and electric energy collected and stored in battery systems that become more and more efficient each day.
The propulsion system on the Captain Ben Moore is based on an electric drivetrain. So it has a standard kind of conventional propeller and shaft line. but the shaft line is powered by an AC induction electric motor. The electric motor receives power from an inverter that is working off of a lithium-ion battery bank that's run at 660 volts DC power. So that battery bank is then converted to variable frequency AC power to run the electric motor. The battery bank is kind of unique because it's a lithium-ion battery system and it's high voltage.
Understand how that energy efficiency is measured when you purchase that car, by distance. Less than full load trucking and service providers report a delivery between our New York and New England markets taking between 6 hours and at times 2 days due to congestion and driver regulations. The hybrid vessel completes that same delivery on water in just over an hour. This is the first hybrid cargo vessel ever built in the United States. It carries 20,000 pounds of cargo in break bulk and 50 passengers, and it does it on a 3-foot, 8-inch draft, which allows us to just about go anywhere and helps us to build out infrastructure that we believe is needed on the coast. The business model works. Redevelop a regional transportation system for New England and New York family farms, along with artisan manufacturers in the region. Prove the ecosystem works using waterborne, hybrid transportation, and electric vehicles to serve the first and last mile. We believe that this type of vessel, smaller, high technology, gentrified, is what this coast needs, because developers look at waterfront property for apartments and condominiums and restaurants. We believe that we're losing that working waterfront, and the only way to get it back is to make people believe that a gentrified vessel like this that takes in the environmental concerns is acceptable for us to enter into your backyard and be able to deliver those products.
I think I can speak for a lot of farmers when I say transportation is our #1 stressor. Having a local transportation system that collaborates farms is huge. It's a game changer. It's an absolute game changer.
So the relationship between Long Island and Connecticut is very important because in history, Connecticut provided a lot of seed to the early farming industry out here, which a lot of people don't know about.
Farming has gone to get big or get out scale, and we as small farmers need to bring that back to diverse small-scale farming. And in order to compete with these bigger farms, we need to work together. Having a distributor come and pick your product up, like right after you come in, and it's fresh, and get it to the market is an amazing opportunity for everyone, and also allows me more time to focus on what I'm doing, so I don't have to spend a whole day or 2 days in a car and micromanage deliveries, because that is a task within itself.
Paying someone to transport your food is not feasible for a lot of farmers. It's not. It's especially a small farmer when it's, a $100 order and you're paying someone a reasonable wage to deliver that to you. You're basically just getting your food out there because you've produced it, not even really making money on it. Having a van that picks up a community of farm products and being able to deliver it is probably the key to making these businesses work in the future.
Once proven, copy the model along the U.S. coasts and harbors where similar geographical and congestion hurdles exist. Harbor Harvest and First Harvest Navigation are doing it.
It started on a napkin in Seattle Hotel. It's the first time I heard the term vertical integration. And Bob presented a napkin with parallel lines and vertical lines and arrows going every which way. So 2 or 3 years after that, Harbor Harvest, the market in Norwalk, was born. And 6 years later, 2 markets, an electric boat, and a mission. That's one reason why I liked working with Harbor Harvest. Well, because they have a badass catamaran. That is amazing to me, and I think there should be more of them. They're making an effort to understand what goes into farming. They're making an effort to ask us, how can we help you? Which is
such a shift from the dependency and the reliance that most grocers have on a farm.
The fact that someone is trying to streamline a distribution with all these small farms, trying to keep local businesses alive, and doing it in a way where it actually makes sense for everybody, that's really important.
With the catamaran that's coming over from Huntington and delivering our product, I think that is definitely something that's thinking out of the box, and I think it's creative. Who would think of bringing, scallops and oysters from, Connick to Connecticut via catamaran? It's pretty impressive.
The discussion of climate change and the effect it has on the environment has been debated for the same extended periods of time, over 30 years. Climate, the failure to support local businesses with our elevated embrace of digital distribution, and the added highway congestion it brings, has not been caused by a global pandemic. In fact, there are indications Mother Nature has taken a breath of fresh air during the period.
Think about one of the things that everyone has noticed. If you look up in the sky, you can see the sky. And that's important for my kids, it's important for my family, it's important for the future, and it's important for me.
These problems are not a 2020 moment in time. COVID-19 simply opened our eyes to the myriad of problems we need to solve while waiting for the health of this country to return. So, as much as COVID has been a huge disruption to the country, we believe it's taught us some very important lessons of leadership and where the country needs to fix infrastructure. It's not only the grid or your highway system, it's the ability of that farmer to maintain his soil, to make sure that his farm can still produce that local product, where that farmer, his or her land, is possible to continue on without the introduction of chemicals and fertilizers, where that his or her baymen and oystermen may be capable of fishing in cleaner waters. Climate change and pandemic have been almost hand in hand, to the point that maybe Mother Nature is teaching us a little bit here of the way that we're going, and it's the wrong route. And the decision process is not purely economics.
We're not looking at the dollars per se, but we're looking at spreading our mantra and the education as well.
We should be looking at this from a government position, state, federal, political, that this land, what you're seeing here, what you've heard from these farmers, that's the true American infrastructure. That's the infrastructure that has to be rebuilt. And it has to be rebuilt sustainably, and it has to be rebuilt with the idea that climate change and how climate change is going to affect the next generation after all of us is going to survive. That's what our mantra is. That's what we're trying to accomplish. Climate change poses a serious threat for a rise in sea levels. As land-based polar ice melts, it finds its way to the coast.
Let me first say that climate change does exist. We cannot ignore the science or the facts, and we cannot pass this problem on to another generation. We have to reduce our carbon footprint now. It affects the farmers, it affects the fishermen, which affects us.
It affects everything. What insects thrive here, what insects are showing up here that didn't used to show up here. Ones from the south that weren't here before that might be not so great. So it's changing everything. You have to be completely observant of your crops and your insects and just everything that's happening on the farm to really understand how to adjust for that the next year.
Farmers lost a lot of crops this winter. We had a frost like May 20th. The ground was frozen. I had things out in the field that died. I had things out in the field that I had to save and throw row cover on. You're sweating to see, is my first planting going to survive this? And you're not expecting it. So it's this balance of needing to get the season going, but also being nervous that some unexpected weather event's going to happen and destroy everything you've been working on since February. Drought, we've been facing a huge drought this summer.
Big time. Water
is a huge concern. People are just tapping the groundwater that we have, and we're not getting anything back.
Biggest topic of climate change is acidification of our oceans. So that will affect the development of spat or baby oysters, and it affects their shell. They can't develop their shells properly and they actually die. So that will be a big problem in the future. Scientists have learned that it's happening at an exponential rate than what they had anticipated. The hatcheries are going to really have challenges ahead of them for the future, and so will we.
So what we have to do is be responsible in our consumerism, and we have to be responsible in our transportation practices. Let your menu be determined by the season. Be creative and support your farmers and support your fishermen. Act responsibly, because climate change is affecting these people. They're suffering, their livelihoods are suffering, the planet depends on it.
As sea temperatures rise, water expands and takes up more space. Current estimates show a 3-foot sea level rise within this century.
The rising of water temperatures, which we saw a rust tide this year, and we had pretty bad red tides in the 80s, which really destroyed a lot of marine life. Right now, I feel that that's closer to home because I've seen it this season, and you realize how fragile things can be.
Higher sea levels mean that destructive storm surges push farther inland. Flooding is estimated to be from 300% to 900% more frequent within U.S. coastal communities than it was just 50 years ago. With those facts, imagine how environmental, sustainable delivery of food and passengers by water works to mitigate that risk, as more than 40% of the U.S. population live along our coast. There's a concern here that we believe we have to take it upon ourselves to do something about. It needs to be done privately. We're not seeing the government intervention that we need to see to act quickly.
Farming is my way of kind of sticking it to the man a little bit and just being like, I'm gonna grow my own food, I'm gonna collect my own water, I'm gonna take care of my own land, and you're not gonna tell me how to do it. You're not gonna provide seed for me. You're not gonna tell me to use chemicals. So people need to start providing for themselves and focusing on their local community. And so for me, this is my way of being a part of that.
Obviously, it takes us first to start that, but also governments and agencies and not-for-profits like working together and figuring out a plan. If people combine forces, I think they'd be a lot more effective at making things better for our water systems.
A political appointee in Connecticut tagged this story as scorched earth. An ironic statement, considering the climate issues the west coast of the United States is battling and the science provided. We have snow in Colorado, earliest they've seen it. We have triple-digit temperatures in California and the Northwest. Our community believes change needs to take place, and we cannot continue the debate for another 30 years.
There's so many different fronts that you can be involved with in this climate change movement, and farming is obviously a huge one of them, but if you get yourself involved in this movement at all, you're helping small farmers. Find out why your parents are buying food from one country that's shipped to another country that's shipped back here and ending up on your plate when there's a farm down the road. Get fired up about it, because this is ultimately your health, your life, your future, the planet's future, your children's future, and it starts with you.
I think it's really important that we all have a relationship with the natural world so that we can then make decisions in our daily lives that have a positive impact in protecting this landscape and saving it for the future generations.
The environment has really been missing the nurturing that it really deserves, and people have been missing the nurturing. The food chain has been missing the nurturing.
Using a sustainable local product is a healthier version to our customers, to ourselves, not only in our restaurants, but even in our daily practices, what I do at my house, what I do at home. And we all know what the benefits are as far as globally, what sustainable products and local products are. I think that's again, the root of being a chef. And it's also an important message to transmit.
I'm hoping that people's thought processes have changed on how they're going to buy food, eat food, be part of the community by getting connected to the farmers and the producers. That's really the most important part about all of this that we're doing, and working as a community to make it better for everyone.
We need this marriage of local skill sets and propulsion technology to take hold. We have the IMO looking at dates of 2050, and we believe this hybrid and EV propulsion is the step forward to be able to introduce transportation that is sustainable. Stern line! If not, well then, pull the last line of oyster traps, mend the last line of farm fence, and cast the last line to hope for a bite. Last line, Cap. As a business community, we need to make that decision. As a nation, we need to provide that leadership. My children, your children, and their children are counting on us. So that's the Harbor Harvest story. And where do we go from here? We have one hybrid, and with the team that we've put together of Dwight St. John and Micah Tucker and Elisa Gorman and Marilyn Kunkel and everyone that works 7 days a week. To make this happen, we need more than one boat. We need more than one terminal. We need more than one market in order to spread this word. So our goal is to build another 8 to 10 vessels similar to this, capable of transporting goods, removing congestion from the highways, and being able to support those local family farms wherever they are, whether they're on the Hudson River and we're delivering into New York City, whether we're in San Francisco Bay, Portland, Maine, or down in the Delaware and Chesapeake. We believe that this project has to grow with investment quality intervention and people that will come in and understand that this is for the planet.
Watch the sunset from the bay. Feel the ocean below my feet as I sail away. The wind blows across my face. How I love those days, but I can see the signs asking us to try. Oh, it's the last line. We cannot waste more time. Actions speak much louder than words.
big difference with someone that actually describes their business as a small business, as small business looks to become big business. What we're trying to move forward here is local business, the importance of distance, the importance of community.
Like a seed that grows in darkness and rises through the light of day. Plant my feet onto the ground, 'cause there's wisdom to be found. I don't want to lose those days, but I can see the signs asking us to try. Oh, it's the last line.
We all came together to create a team that was looking to change the world, looking to do good.
Actions speak much louder than words. It's time to bring our words to life. Oh, it's the last line. Before the sun won't shine. It's in our hands to save on our land and make our future bright. Yeah.
If we could move more cargo on our waterways more responsibly, then we've made a difference.